All right, there, I've got everybody. Welcome, Tom. Quinn, too. Jim Zons is the only committee member yet. Oh, Jim is on now, too. Welcome. Well, I have 4:30, so let's begin the meeting. First of all, I appreciate it to all of you to move this meeting up to 4:30 instead of our usual 4:45. At the end of our meeting of announcements, I'll be asking you if 4:45 is during this winter months, if that's the time you want to revert back to, or maybe we should consider 4:30, but it's up to you. The reason I call this meeting early is because I have moved Tammy Simons, who is the Chamber Executive Director, Tourism Director, up because she has another meeting she has to be out at 6 o'clock. So I moved her up so we can hear from Tammy a little bit about what's going on regarding the Chamber tourism, and then we will move right into the rest of our CRT meeting. So with that announcements, I thank you again for changing your schedule to 4:30 so we could meet and maybe get done just a little bit earlier than usual. You've all had a chance to read the minutes that Michelle sent to everybody for November 8th. If you look at those, I do know that we will be talking about some of the actions that we took at the last meeting. If you've had a chance to read them, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our CRT meeting on November 8th.
So moved.
Who was that, please?
It was Ann.
Jim Zahn seconds.
All right, thank you, thank you. Any discussion, corrections, additions, or anything else to the November 8th CRT meeting? If not, all in favor signify by approving by saying aye.
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 Thank you. The motion's carried. Thank you. Public comments. Krista said and Michelle that we have one public comment today, and I hope he's online. I don't see him right here on my screen, but Terry Nichols, are you there?
He is not here in the meeting. I believe Michelle has the public comment.
Oh, thank you, Krista. Michelle, if you will share them with us then at this time, we appreciate it.
I will share it. It was an email, so I put the email on the screen as well. This was received Tuesday, November 9th, so the day after our last meeting. So CRT committee, I am attaching just one of the ARPA grants from 24/7 Telecom. I believe that 24/7 was awarded 6 or 7 ARPA grants. It seems that Dunn County is still sitting on the fence pertaining to spending ARPA funds for broadband. The questions I heard at a recent county meeting pertaining to broadband by the county manager, chair of the Board of Supervisors, and others indicates that these grants may not have been read by people who need to read the individual grants thoroughly. The attached grant is just one ARPA grant. To get the picture of each grant, one has to read each individual grant. These grants have maps of the coverage areas, materials listing of projects, and so much more information. The huge factor in these grants is that they are scalable. One needs to understand that scalable networks weren't the norm not so long ago. These fiber networks can expand in the future without affecting the current customers on the network. I'm hoping that the CRT chair shares the attached ARPA grant with anyone that has questions. This one grant has 28 pages of information. To get a picture of 24/7 telecom ARPA grants, one would need to read all of the grants. There are technical specifications in these grants that all would not understand, but I'm sure the ISP would be eager to help in any way they can. Also, these grants list entities supporting these grants, such as school districts, townships, area businesses, economic development entities, and more. This particular grant lists a Dunn County UW Extension employee as well. UW Extension has been a promoter and educator of broadband for years. Respectfully, Terry Nichols, Town of Colfax.
Thank you, Michelle. That there's no other public comments at this point, right? Thank you. Okay, moving on the agenda. I did move Tammy Simons up so that she could report, and I do not see that she's on, so we'll move on. And once I see that she's on, I told her I would move her up on the agenda so we can hear what they're doing. Meanwhile, we're going to move right to you, Katie Wantock. We always have one of our UW as an extension educators report. And Katie, we haven't heard from you for a while. We read your good report, but Katie, you're on.
Well, thank you, Supervisor Anderson. Appreciate that. And good afternoon, all supervisors. Happy to be with you today. So I do just want to talk a little bit about the project that I started pre-pandemic and that has hopefully going to be ending relatively soon. So, I've been with the county for over 11 years and the position has changed quite a bit. And this latest venture certainly is something that is relatively new in my experience. I have a master's in business and not necessarily an expert in education and teaching per se, but really this curriculum talks about the farm business financial management model. So it's taking farmers and getting them back to the basics of financial management, whether it be collecting and organizing their records, looking at accounting systems, why those records are important, transitioning them into management reports, and how to use those reports to make decisions. So the curriculum we're calling is called Farm Pulse Continuum. It is a kind of an adaptation of original curriculum that was developed 15 years ago by my colleagues in various counties in the state. It was called Ag Ventures. It was taught in person over 3 days, and that might have been great 15 years ago. But unfortunately now what we have learned through extension and multiple needs assessments and surveys, farmers don't have the time, especially 3 days dedicated to leave the farm. There's a very limited number of employees. The stress that's out there trying to find somebody to do the work for them, it's just not feasible. So this online curriculum through UW-Madison's Canvas course will assist them in working through the course at their own time, at their own pace, in an environment that is very welcome and hopefully encouraging them to move forward. So this project is funded by the North Central Extension Risk Management Education, who receives their funding from USDA National Institute of Food and Agriculture. So I just make reference to that because the staff I'm working with are able to take the time to work on this curriculum and put it into this online learning software system. So I'll just kind of give you a feel. We're still flushing out a lot of the details, but it does follow three different families that we're kind of flushing out here. So we have the Bella Acres family. And so here's Bella Acres, your kind of more traditional per se dairy farm with a grandpa. And they can learn about grandpa and what he owns. Then you have the next generation, Dale and Gwen, learn about what they own. There's a sister-in-law here, as well as the third generation that are potentially in there. There's the livestock farm that participants can follow along with and learn about their operation. And then finally, we have a vegetable farm. And this is the Yang family. And so we are working on what their situation might look like for selling vegetables and flowers. And working through that one, that's kind of our more latest development within this curriculum. So, but this is trying to be, like I said, something that they can do on their own. It can be interactive and hopefully reach those key learning objectives that we have set out through each of these modules. So as they kind of click through and learn about, they're developing this module. They're looking at records in this particular one here. They're preparing their financial statements. They're looking at understanding the different records and decisions. So we have different learning objectives. Hopefully by the end of the module, they'll complete, in this case, record keeping, financial statements, and et cetera. We have quizzes and knowledge checks, we call them, throughout to make sure that the participants are really understanding what they're learning, what they're reading, what they're being told. There's different videos throughout, and I'm not quite sure. For example, here would be a video. The recording has not been put into the course yet, but the video would look over, here's the module, here's the voiceover for it. And we have, what we've seen from the research in this different style of learning really helps to kind of, I'll say, shake it up a little bit. So it's not just reading text on a screen. It's reading text, it's listening or watching videos, for example, like this storyboard here with the voiceover. It's, being interactive with the quizzes. So we have several of these different learning styles throughout to make sure that farmers are learning, but also continuing to progress with the course. They're not becoming frustrated and bored per se. And so you'll see that there's some words, there might be, a simple graphic that kind of illustrates those words. And then we kind of go through and there'll be some more information through along the way. But I just wanted to kind of highlight, because that certainly is one of the bigger projects that I've been working on throughout the pandemic. And when we were not able to meet with farmers in person, this kind of curriculum will really help reach the audience that we're looking at, trying to get them to, increase their financials so that they are making profits, especially at the volatility of commodity prices, as well as crop input prices that we're hearing about now as we go into the winter months, into the spring, due to supply and demand issues because of the pandemic. So just one example of the curriculum I'm working on. Michelle and I are certainly just recently sent out a newsletter telling people about some of the upcoming programs that we're offering, such as pesticide applicator training. We haven't unfortunately been able to teach that in 2 years, but we are starting to recertify private applicators again in the county. And so we're set to offer quite a few, I think 4 in-person sessions between January and February. So that's exciting to get people back in, whether they're applying commercial fertilizers, chemicals, those kind of things on fields or in greenhouses. We train both out there. So, and we have a lot of, I think this Friday, I'm teaching the ag leasing workshop and seminar, recorded a couple videos for that. And that probably is one of the more popular sessions because it is very important as we get into some challenging times with commodity prices, higher crop inputs. Farmers are looking at some strategies on how to renegotiate land rental agreements to make it both advantageous for them and the landowner. So that is the focus of our session this Friday, is negotiating and making sure it's equitable on both sides of the fence. So very short, quick update from me. If you have any questions, I'd certainly answer those at this time.
Well, I'll have a comment right away, Katie. That is excellent. I wish more farmers will learn about this and take advantage of this great financial management program that you're doing. I don't know how they can function without that, quite frankly, and you're doing a great job with it. Now, I don't want to interrupt. Anybody from the committee or anybody else have a question of Katie? Larry, go ahead.
Katie mentioned many times about the pandemic and how it affects farms. Would she have an opinion on the pandemic? Are we talking about reduced prices that farmers might receive for their products, or are we talking about the cost of inputs to produce those products being affected by the pandemic?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, Larry. There's a couple different approaches from, for example, the tax side of it, the income taxes, which I've had quite a few questions about. I taught a session last week, in fact, facilitated a conversation with 2 tax consultants. There's certainly another spike in income, again, thanks to some support from different government agencies. Because of the fluctuations in commodity prices, there was an influx of some government program payments. So there are some tax consequences that come with that farmers are having to kind of regulate. But right now, what we're seeing in crop input prices anticipated for spring is because of supply issues. So a lot of the fertilizer is kind of stuck on the ports and not able to kind of either come in from China or kind of make its way into the Midwest is kind of what we're hearing. And so there's going to be some of that clogged issues there. So that definitely is pandemic related out there. So so we have that kind of those two opposing things. Just a volatility of commodity prices too. We're seeing kind of a slow decrease now in soybean prices, but corn is still trending relatively high. Again, the exporting, is going well. Those barges are leaving to go to other countries. So that's why corn prices, there's still demand for corn and prices continue to stay high on there as well.
Thank you. Good question, Larry.
Thank you for your work.
Tom, go ahead, Larry. You want to back up on that
No, I just
question?
wanted to thank her for her work and I appreciate everything that she does. And I'm glad that we have her available to farmers.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you. Yes, Tom Quinn.
Yeah, I also want to thank Katie for her work. It's really important. Sounds really important. I just wonder, Katie, maybe you made this clear and I just didn't catch it, but are the farmers who participate in the workshop, are they actually entering their ongoing data into the program, or is it more hypothetical in nature?
Yeah, that's a great question, Supervisor Quinn. So in the course, we have the 3 different case farms that they can follow along with, or they do have the option to do their own. So if they're following along with the case farm, there is a spreadsheet that they will be able to download to go and look at their information. We will provide them with support to work on their own after the course is completed and follow up with them. That's kind of that additional kind of after the fact. Once the course is finished being designed, which we're kind of still in the process of kind of tweaking just a little bits, we're hoping to reach out to the Farm Service Agency as well as some local lenders to get their support, especially Farm Service Agency, to see if it can qualify as a training program with them and really encourage their borrowers to work through that process. That's one of our goals. And we've had initial interest from them back in 2020 they would definitely be receptive to that process. So also looking for support from local lenders, encouraging their borrowers also to go through the program.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Tom. Good question, Katie. Anyone else have a question, Katie? Well, while you're thinking, Katie also writes in a regular article in Wisconsin Agriculturalist, it's a Ag News magazine that goes not just to Wisconsin farmers, I think maybe out of state, many of them. And Katie, I read that and I just love reading that because not only Katie, but there's an agricultural banker that gives his perspective. And the other person, I just slipped some mind, Katie. What's the other person?
He's a farmer from eastern Wisconsin.
Right, a farmer. So we get the perspective of an ag lender, a great UW-Madison extension specialist in our own Katie, and then a farmer. And they write, and it's about basically usually about management questions. And Katie, you do a great job on that too. And I don't know if everybody's aware of that. It's very well done. Anybody else have a question, Katie? Well, we're going to congratulate you again, Katie. Thank you for all your hard work. And we hope that sometime we can get back to more meetings in person. I know that every January there used to be what was it? We called it the Ag Lenders Conference that was held at Stout and many, many years. And that was always a great session. And I haven't heard much about that lately.
Yeah, we are planning. That's always the first week of January to provide outlooks to ag professionals. And we are offering it in person with a virtual option to attend as well. So we're seeing some mixed attendance, but some are able to attend in person and some are not. But we are luckily, with the help of a great support staff, Michelle there, able to offer the virtual option for people. So that'll be a very nice addition.
Yeah, what's the date of that again, Katie?
It is scheduled for Thursday, January 6th. And we can certainly, Supervisor Anderson, forward you that
January
information.
6th, right?
Yes.
Another good event. Well, Katie, thank you very much. Our best to you and appreciation for all your hard work. And we will let you go now, but great report. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Katie. Merry Christmas. Now we'll move right into our area extension director to follow up with them. And I see that Catherine is online with us. So Catherine Emmanuel, we're going to hear from you.
Thank you, everybody, and good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
All right,
we
good.
can hear you.
Good. I have to just right out of the gates, it's on my mind to apologize. I was a putting my mic on earlier and you could hear me rattling around and I just apologize. So
No
I'm glad
problem.
it wasn't the beginning of the pandemic because then it would be a scandal, but now we're all used to it. So thank you for your understanding. So I have just short and sweet updates, just a couple things here and done. The first piece is thank you to you all and to your colleagues on the board and to the county manager for your support to have extension back again in 2022. After the budget was passed, I was able to work with Mr. Miller and have our contracted signed for next year for our educational services. So we are all set on that.
Right, good.
The second piece is that Addison Vang and I met this morning. He may be able to join today. He's not exactly sure if he'll be on, but nonetheless, we had talked about me conveying information that if he doesn't join today, he will certainly watch this video and watch the conversation due to the broadband topics that will be on today so that he can be informed and part of that knowledge team as you make decisions and move forward. So I think you all have his email address and you're certainly welcome to reach out directly to him and just know that he's attuned and is ready to walk with you all as you continue to provide leadership here in Dunn County around broadband. And then the last and not least, just wanted to share as we wrap up our year, our extension educators are in the middle of our annual conference. We used to have a conference for the entire state that we do every few years, and then it kind of got spread to maybe every 3 or 5 years due to funding. But last year we were in forced innovation to figure out how can we have a conference, and we were able to use virtual technology. So we are actually doing a 3-week, one chunk of hours each Wednesday for 3 weeks to do our annual conference. And it's been really amazing. So the themes that we have are this year are equity, communicating value, and digital innovation. And I shared a little bit about it in the monthly highlights, but it really is a nice time to not only stay up to date, we can share about some of our successes that are happening. And as I like to say, getting that air in our tires as we think about entering 2022 of, okay, here's a neat idea, here's a different way to approach things, and really trying to get that professional support for us as extension professionals as we start 2022 and continue in our current landscape of a lot of virtual teaching in addition to in person and just trying to do our very best as extension professionals. So that's all I have on my list, but certainly would be glad to entertain any questions or any comments that the committee may have.
Thank you, Catherine. Yes, opening it up to anybody. Comments, questions to Catherine. Dave Bartlett, I'm going to ask our county board chair. Do you have off the top of your head know when our county extension people will give their report to the county board, the supervisors? What month, when does that usually fall? Do you remember?
Let me look.
I bet you Michelle.
It usually is in June.
June. I bring that up to you, Catherine, because at that time, you know, it's my hope we'll be back in person, but that is always valuable so that the rest of the county board supervisors get to hear what we hear from you, you know, on a monthly basis. And I think it's very important that our full county board gets to hear many of the things that we hear in our committee. So Catherine, thank you. And Katie, again, thanks to you. I wish you and all, please, all of your staff there, from all of us here, we wish you a very happy time with your family and our appreciation for a great year and our best wishes for a very happy and new year. Catherine, Katie, and to all of our wonderful staff here at Dunn County UW-Madison Extension. So thank you.
Thank you all. We really appreciate you all. So we'll see you around in the new year.
Well, we're strong supporters. Thank you, Catherine. Now, I still don't see Tammy Simons on. Is she there? Maybe she wasn't able to make it, but I asked her to come to this meeting and report just before we would hear from Jim Zahns. If we could hear maybe what the Chamber of Commerce is doing with their tourism. They recently got a big grant, as you probably heard, and I was eager to hear how they plan to use and spend some of that. And how, when we hear from Jim Zahns here in a little while, and how we can stay in tune with them and all of the villages and townships and rural areas of Dunn County. Since Tammy isn't here, I will be inviting her from time to time to come back. She's always welcome to hear what we're doing here in Dunn County Rural Tourism. So having said that, let's move on to what we call item 6A under Rural Tourism website update. And Jim Zahns, I have the wonderful occasion to visit with Jim once in a while, and I know how hard he's working. So Jim, would you take a few minutes, please? When I read the minutes from our last meeting back in November, you talked about soliciting photos for new Dunn County tourism and economic development. I have a meeting with economic development meeting this Thursday, and I plan to bring this up to them at that time too, Jim, to our Dunn County economic development. Jim Zahns, go ahead. We can't hear you, Jim. You're muted.
I never do that. That's pretty weird, but that's okay because I'm tired.
Thank you, Jim. You're on.
So that's a good idea to bring that up to economic development, maybe a tap into some of their contacts, because besides just having fun visitor type photos for the site, it's going to be good to have stuff that showcases like industrial development and potential business locations throughout the county, and having input from Dunn County Economic Development would be good. So,
thank you.
It took me a while to put together my photo release. I've been dealing with a few health issues over the past couple of months. It turns out related to having COVID in October. I have last October, a year ago. So I will just publicly say I have very little tolerance for people who refuse to get vaccinated at this point, because it's affecting a lot of people, and it's still affecting people going forward. And the longer people don't get vaccinated, the more we're going to be sitting here having Zoom meetings as opposed to meeting in person. So I'll get off the soapbox for that. But I sent Krista the photo request language. She had mentioned having a kind of a photo permission release, not so much like the release for people, but having basically the permission to use the photo on the website. And she had suggested that I should run that past Nick, and I thought that probably is a good idea. So I'll send that off to him and make sure that it meets his scrutiny, and hopefully he doesn't add a whole bunch of legal jargon to it so that it discourages people from contributing photos and other stuff to the site. So, Addison Vang also reached out to me about talking to me with his broadband experience, and he has an interest in this site development too. So he and I actually are going to have a Zoom meeting later this week to get his input and his thoughts on it. So in the meantime, on the background, as I've checked in with Dave and the stuff he's put together, he's developed a lot of the structure of the site, but still lacking a lot of the photos that we're really going to need on the front end. So that construction is still going, slow but sure, but the progress is being made. So I'm encouraged by that. But if you guys have questions, suggestions, things that you've encountered, let me know so that I can kind of tackle that next.
Thank you, Jim. Questions from the committee or anybody else? Jim, Dave Bartlett, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I was just wondering what the timeline is. When do you think this will be up and going, Jim? I mean, you're doing a lot of great work, and I don't want to sound like I expect it to be done right now, but I'm just curious. Is it something next spring or later or?
No, I think that when I've been talking with Dave, it's the goal to have this completed into this like first quarter coming up ahead. So it ideally would be before the spring and the summer, so that it gives plenty of opportunity for it to be out there as people are looking on the website and doing making their plans for the summer and fall activities, that this has had time not only to be out there for people to look at it, but it's had time to wind up in the search engines and be able to get found. So that's the goal. And again, getting some of that additional content for some photos and as Chairman Anderson mentioned, having even getting some input from economic development with some imagery that they may have would be pretty helpful. But the goal, at least where I'm kind of pushing him, is that I'd like for this to be done in this first quarter of this coming year.
Which brings me the question, Dave, Chairman Bartlett. We had $10,000 in the account this year. Will we have to request that we get those funds forwarded?
Yes.
What formal request? I'll have to do that then, I guess, right?
Yeah, we should talk to probably try to remember to talk to Keith about that.
Because we won't spend that this year.
Miller is on, so he can help us remember that.
Okay, Dave, because we won't be spending it obviously this year. So you want to contact him on that, Dave? Would you do that for me, please?
I will definitely try to remember to do that. I'll leave myself a note here.
I appreciate. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I was going to have a further comment. Something that made me think about it is Highway's been talking about ATV routes, and they'll probably be bringing some more to the county board in the future. But anyway, because of that, it made me think that I had a few people reach out to me asking me how they get a map of ATV routes in our county. And I had to send them off to the clubs because we have no map at the county level or anything. I said I could tell them what county routes were open, but that's just short stretches. So anyway, I'm just throwing that out there, that's something that people ask about. And I don't know if it can be incorporated in this website, but that and snowmobiling may be something that it's tourism. And I know from some groups that I'm on in Facebook, they're already planning trips for next summer for ATV in other parts of the state. I like to keep track of that. So that, maybe that's some information we should consider sharing in that website. if we
Yeah,
can.
especially if, I mean, it'd be really nice if the county had, a map available. If not, if the clubs are putting it together.
Well, I think
Otherwise-
there's a county association. I know there is for the snowmobiles. A snowmobile association for the county where all the clubs join. And then they put out a county map. I don't know so much about ATVing. I used to be in the snowmobile clubs, and I used to be a president of a snowmobile club, so I know about that. I went to those meetings. ATVing, I'm not up on as much, but that may be something that we could reach out and look into. And if there is, maybe they have a website. We could just have a link to them or something. But that's how a lot of other counties do it. But it'd be a way to get the information to the public.
I'm
Thank
making
you.
I'm making myself a note to ask somebody I know that's involved with ATVing a lot, to ask him what he knows about that, because it could be too, because a lot of these the addition of some of these town roads and that is fairly recent, over like the last year. And it may be that it's changing so much that nobody's even been able to put together a map yet. But I've got a guy that I can ask about some of that, and certainly ask about the snowmobile stuff too.
Well, while you were talking, I stepped away to pull out the old map I have. And I was looking at it because it's, I don't know what year it was printed, but it pretty well has the city and much of Dunn County. I can't show it to you over here. It's a map I'm gonna bring into you today, but if you haven't seen it, and I don't even know how old it is, on the front cover, it just says Menominee area, city and county maps. Can you read this right there? No, you can't.
No, I can't.
Visible.
But I do have an older map that I got from somebody on ATV routes from a few years ago.
Yeah,
So I'm aware that there's probably something out there. I'm just saying it'd be nice for tourism if somebody looks at our website and is interested in that, they can come up with where to go to get the information.
yes,
Yeah.
and yeah, absolutely.
Up-to-date information too, because the only problem with printed maps is the minute that they're printed, they're instantly out of date. And especially right now with the ATV routes in the county being, changed and added fairly recently, that is, probably not that up to date. But like I said, I'll reach out to a couple of people that I know to see if somebody has compiled something or the clubs have worked together on putting something together like that. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Anybody on the committee have a question of Supervisor Zons at this point? Good work, Jim. We look forward to moving ahead on this, and I guess I wonder when we might be ready to give a little update to our full county board. I'll talk to County Manager Bartlett about this sometime, and we'll see when we're ready. Because again, like I told the extension people, there are times when we need to share this now to let the county know what we're doing for rural tourism in Dunn County. So we will need to do that sometime in the near future too. Anything else?
I see Ann knows that the county ATV Association has a Facebook page. So they do have some information out there, evidently.
And you're shaking your head. What do you say?
She shared it in chat, Jim.
Okay.
Yeah, there's, it looks like the Dunn County ATV Association, it says they don't have online maps, but they do have print maps that they put in certain locations. So perhaps there's a way, whoever's got those print maps, that they could be combined into an online map. in some way.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, very good. Jim, and thank you for that good report and the update. And we will have another report at our January meeting, because at that particular time, maybe we will have solicited. I know that Larry Bjork mentioned getting some of these 4-H photography or some of those people involved. And so Larry, or I don't know if anybody's had a chance to reach out to those people, but we got a lot of those things we need to do. And I need to do more on it too, Jim. Thank you. Any more comments, or we'll move on?
Yeah, I don't know if I see that Addison popped into the
Yes.
to the meeting. I don't know if you had any comments, Addison, or if your ears were burning, because I was talking about getting together with you later this week or anything like that. But he's at least been the fly on the wall in the meeting right now.
Yeah, I saw him pop up. I was going to call on him too. Hi, Addison. Welcome.
You're silent.
You're muted, Addison.
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. So right before I left, right around 2019, we had some discussions on kind of, building some kind of tourism website of some sort, but it didn't really go too far because I left, and then also Eric Turner passed away shortly afterwards, so I think it just kind of stopped right there. So I didn't want to kind of lose some of those discussions, so that's why I reached out to Jim to kind of provide some input, at least with what we had discussed. So there's some things that I definitely can provide, such as some of the mappings and some possibilities with that, with the ATV and the snowmobile, because I did manage the outdoor recreation plan. And so if you look at the outdoor recreation plan, there's some maps and some activities in there that might be good to consider when it comes to kind of creating this tourism map. So me and Jim will talk a little bit more about that. And yeah, but that's about it.
Okay, thank you, Edison. We're going to be hearing more from you too a little bit later on that broadband meeting coming up Friday, I hope.
Mhm.
Thank you. More, well, anything else regarding this for Jim Zahn's committee? Well, Jim, thank you. We're moving along. It's making good progress. I really appreciate that. I'm very happy. Okay, let's move on to the next item then. I have down a little update here. If you notice that we said on Tom Quinn's got a big meeting coming up, and his man has sent us a lot of information that I hope everyone had a chance to read. So Tom, you're doing all your homework. Can you update us a little bit right now, Tom, where we're at regarding your work with West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning and so forth?
Sure. Thanks, Jim. Well, as you all know, I've been working with Chris and Sue over at Regional Planning to frame out what public workshop would look like for Dunn County. And I think you all have received information about the idea of having two seminars. Basically, the first one as soon as possible, that would be Friday this week, that would sort of provide a general overview and an update with regard to what opportunities there are, how those opportunities are being pursued, and some of the things that local officials might want to think about as they think about whether to put money into those projects, or how to put money in, or how to consider how to weigh different options they have. So that is scheduled for Friday at 10 a.m. It's a Zoom meeting. It's by registration. So, and I realize now, Addison, that I probably forgot to send you a direct invitation. I'll take care of that. I sure hope you're able to come. But that'll happen on Friday. I think it'll be an interesting discussion. It'll be fairly closed. It'll be mostly county and town officials. That's what seemed like made the most sense to start with. And it'll, I think, provide a pretty good perspective on what's the lay of the land, what are some of the opportunities, what are some of the things that local government should be considering as they think about allocating funds, or where funds are available that can be allocated, and also what the current status is, what grants have been awarded, especially the recent round, and what the next grants that are available are. So that'll all be Friday, and I think that'll be good. The short notice is a bit problematic, and the time of the year is not the best. But we'll do. We sent something out to all of the county supervisors. I can remind them again of the meeting on Wednesday night, and something's gone out to, two things are going out to all of the town board and town clerk officials. And then a bunch of citizens also have gotten some invitations. So we'll be probably following that up with another notice later this week or during the week. And I sure hope that members of the committee can come to that. It'll be organized by Chris Straight at Regional Planning. They just finished a regional meeting of the Regional Broadband Coalition, and much of the information that was presented to that group will be presented to us also. So I think it'll be very informative. And then the idea is to have, if it makes sense, is to have another meeting in January, and maybe have that meeting be more focused on county strategy and some of the steps we can take to implement a strategy. But this first meeting is largely informational and discussion purposes. Anybody have any questions?
Questions? I know I have two. Anybody? County Board Chair, Dave Bartlett, yes.
I guess I have a couple. I guess the one question I'm always concerned about, this is all grant funded or something, so there's no cost to the county at this point, correct, Tom?
Yeah, there's no cost to the county. These first two seminars are funded by money that regional planning has already received.
All right. And then my other question is, I signed up for it or registered, and I noticed when I registered, it came up during the registration that there was a place to click on for the Zoom meeting. But after I was done registering, that of course went away. And if somebody doesn't send out a link to a Zoom meeting,
yes,
I'm not very good with computers. I don't know how I'm going to get there. So I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe they're going to send something out to everybody, shortly before the meeting. That'd be great. But I'm just letting you know that I think I don't know how I'd get onto it right now. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Yep, that was exactly what I was going to ask Dave, the same question. So I'm in the same boat as you are.
Well, if you had, was not clear, but it was printed on the place where you did the registering, that once you registered, you would receive a direct link to the Zoom meeting before the meeting on Friday. So that's the plan. And I know I missed it first too, so don't feel bad about it. But we can send a reminder out to people about that too. So the plan is everyone who registers will get a notification and a link to the Zoom prior to the meeting, kind of like we do with our county board meetings.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Well, thank you, Dave, because that was one of the questions I was going to ask Tom too, because I had exactly the same experience as you, and I thought, how am I going to get on? I like to go right where you know, we have that and I click it on and it's done for me. I'm not
Right.
quite any more bright. You know, right now we have Addison Vang on here too, and I maybe I had a comment down that I was gonna ask Addison about, and now I can't find what it was. I do wanna, I brought up this at last meeting, and I'm gonna ask you whether you think it's important regarding broadband. Remember I said that Eau Claire County functions, they have a big broadband committee. Chippewa County has, I think it's just their supervisors. Other counties have an advisory broadband committee meeting. And I just took the liberty of talking to my superintendent here in Menominee and a couple other people, if that might be of interest. And they jumped at the opportunity. They said they would love to serve on an advisory broadband, rural broadband committee to get input so that how we are all tied in this together. It was somebody from the medical community too. And I guess, I don't know, Chairman Bartlett, even if we are at liberty to form such an advisory committee, or this committee is the broadband committee, this committee right here, the CRT. So Chairman Bartlett, do you have any thoughts on that? Do we need an advisory broadband committee, or do we stay with CRT?
I guess I would suggest we stay with CRT until, we're going to have 2 meetings coming up. It sounds like at least one for sure coming up Friday, and then maybe another one in January to talk about strategies for Dunn County. And I assume when we talk about strategies for Dunn County, we'll be talking about the county, us at the county more than, partly of that also of what the county's going to do. Even though it's, I'm sure we'll be talking about the whole county, what strategies for the whole county, but we'll also probably part of that will be talking about what should the county itself do, county government itself do. And maybe coming out of one of those 2 meetings, sounds like probably more than likely the second meeting, but maybe there'll be a suggestion that would change my thinking. I like to keep government as small as we can. The more committees we have, the more expense we have. And if we can keep it at the CRT at this time, I think that's what we should do. And but my mind can be changed. If the suggestion and the majority want us to have a advisory committee, we sure can. But I think at this point, why don't we wait and find out what comes out of those 2 meetings?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I only wanted to bring it up to start people thinking about it. And the key is advisory now. No authority, it's an advisory. We only letting these people give us their input, from the educational, from townships, from the medical, and that was my thinking. And it certainly would not be adding to government as I would perceive it or want it either. So I want to make that clear. When I brought it up, it was strictly to make sure these people felt they had a voice in rural broadband within Dunn County. So yeah, let's keep it. Unless any other committee members have any comments they'd care to make about this. It was my idea. I just wanted to throw it out to you. I haven't, maybe sometime after our next 2 meetings, like Chairman Bartlett said, that might come up. And then if we feel we need one, then this committee would certainly be still the broadband committee. Don't get me wrong. But I think we all want to reach out to them. Well, thank you. I appreciate it and understand that. Addison Vang, I'm going to call on you one more time regarding this meeting on Friday, 10 o'clock to noon. And I, like Chairman Bartlett, had trouble registering, and I'm not sure I even am. And I'm going to have to go back and try it again. I don't know if anybody else in the committee tried to register and had the same experience that Dave and I had. I hope you're all registered and can attend this meeting Friday morning. I think it's going to be very valuable. Right, Addison, any updates you want to share with us about that meeting?
This is the first time I'm hearing about it. But I think it is, I think it's going to be a great opportunity for everyone to get a chance to kind of just see what's going on and discuss broadband. So I'm excited. Once I get that registration, I will definitely sign up. I have another meeting, but I think I should be able to move it around. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to really say. I think, Dunn County is going in the right direction, to kind of look at different options, different strategies. There's a lot of different strategies throughout the entire state. Everyone's kind of doing their own thing. So this is a way to, to at least get, back on, the right track and trying to figure out where we want to go, having a direction. So yeah, I think it's great.
Thank you, Addison. I appreciate it. Ann, you've been kind of quiet. I certainly would hope we could hear if you have any more comments or anything to share with us.
I really don't have anything new. I think like what you said about having like the medical field and a few other outsiders not part of the government being involved is definitely a benefit to broadband, kind of just know the needs, which was something that Chris Stark had brought up from Extension, and he works throughout the state with a lot of different other cities and counties with broadband. But then again, I think it is important to kind of go through these two sessions coming up to kind of get a better idea of exactly where we want to go and what the strategies are, because every county, every city is a little bit different. So I think we're going in the right direction.
Thank you, Addison.
Mhm.
I haven't heard from Ann Vogel and Paul Miller's on here too, so I would invite either one of them to for comments. We haven't heard from you two. Paul, you have any bright, enlightening things you want to share with us?
I do have things to share, but I'd prefer to hear from Supervisor Vogel first.
Okay, I called on her too, and I wondered, Ann, if you had some comments.
Well, I did register, so I'm looking forward to the meeting. And I hope we do come up with some strategy or process so that we can identify all the grants and like what letters we need to write and like who's our point person and how it's going to work going forward. Because it sounds like there's a lot of grants and money out there. So it's like, how do we harness and make sure we get as much of that funding in our county as possible? So
Right.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
I agree, Ann. I am too. Much appreciated. Yes, thank you. Well, I hope I get on all right. Yes, Paul, our county manager.
Thank you, Chairman Anderson. So I wanted to share with you a conversation I had with County Board Chair Bartlett earlier today too. Thinking ahead to how we can do this, I see a relatively simple process that we can implement. The workshop is going to be important just in terms of providing information to everybody about what are the options, what are the grants that are out there, and what have other jurisdictions done with respect to those grants. For our own purposes, I can foresee a relatively straightforward and simple process wherein if somebody wants to appeal to the county for funds or support on a rural broadband project, a simple one-page list of questions, information that we request them to provide.
Okay.
The obviously the name of the grant applicant, the identification of the grant itself, the project description. These are things that Mr. Nichols referred to in his public comment that was read at the beginning. The number of residences or businesses that will be served, total cost of the project, the total amount that's being requested for participation, an identification of the grant requirements. Is there a minimum monetary amount that's required to be donated by units of local government in order to qualify or not? In many cases, for instance, it is enough to do a letter of support. There's actually no monetary requirement at all. How much is the IPO putting into the project itself so that it's not primarily publicly funded? Many of the other jurisdictions, for instance, have a rule that say that the IPO has to put in at least as much into the project as they're requesting from units of local government, if not 50% more, to show that they have real skin in the game and aren't simply looking to reduce their own personal costs. So there are a list of fairly straightforward questions. When we get approached, we can provide this to them. They can pull this information together, submit it to the administration department. We'll make sure the application is complete with all the questions. Invite a representative to come to CRMT, present the project and the request. CRMT would make a recommendation that would be forwarded to the executive board and ultimately to the county board for action. It's just that simple and straightforward. And it's also in a couple of inquiries we haven't gotten that. Maybe because we haven't been able to prompt that we need the information, but in the couple of requests that I have seen, there's simply the request for the money without any of the detail. This would give us the details that we need to make an informed decision. So I'm looking forward to the workshop spurring a lot of thoughts, but I fully expect, and I have been communicating with other county administrators in our region as to how they're handling it, including those that have dedicated a portion of their ARPA funds. They are taking different approaches. I agree with Chairman Bartlett. I don't think we need necessarily a separate committee. I think the CRT not only is a good committee to do it, but if there are other experts or interested persons, we can invite them to attend any meeting where we are considering a rural broadband project contribution or participation request. So I think this committee is well versed. Certainly has been the committee that has overseen broadband. And rather than reinvent the wheel, I would rely on the expertise on this committee for any kind of vetting of broadband project participation requests. So those are my thoughts for you.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that very much. And as you were talking, it occurred to me that that maybe we should make this an action item. Our next meeting is January 10th. And at that particular time, maybe we could have a proposal, what you just talked about, what that application might look like, the questionnaire, whatever that would be filled out by and then I believe maybe this committee then would approve that, and then we could get that going. Would that work, Paul? Could we have that maybe ready by our next meeting in January?
No problem. I could pull that together with relatively little effort, which is my favorite kind of work. Relatively little effort.
Yeah, thank you. If you would show us sort of what you just talked about,
Sure.
And then we would look at that application or that form, request form, and then maybe I'll even put it on as if we're ready. And if we aren't, we will adjourn it. But if we're ready, we could even take action to get it going. So if you'll do that for me, please, I will have that on the agenda for January 10th. Thank you, Paul. Those are good comments. And then finally, in closing, we've finished our agenda. I moved this meeting to 4:30 for one time. Do you want to go back to 4:45 or 4:30 work? I have no preference. I just needed it today a little earlier. And, but 4:45 as usual. Any comments from any of you about the time? What you prefer?
Later is better for me.
Tom or Jim likes it at 4:45. Tom?
Later would be better for me too.
4:45, it will be at our next meeting in January. That's all I needed to hear from you. And I will appreciate the fact that you did change your agenda so we could meet at 4:30 today. So that concludes our agenda. To everybody, I feel very good. We had, I think, an informative meeting. Thanks again to you, Tom, especially, and to Jim Zahns. And it's always good when our county board chair can join us for these meetings, and our county manager. Michelle, as always, for doing such a great job and taking our minutes and passing them on. And oftentimes, of course, we get a nice report in the paper from the Tribune up there in Glenwood City. So Leanne Ralph, if she's on, I appreciate it. It's always accurate. And Krista, thank you for all the arrangements. Any final comments from anybody? I will then wish all of you a very happy holiday. Be safe, be healthy, and be happy, and hope you have some time to spend with family, and may Santa Claus be good to all of you.
Yep.
Any other final comments?
Merry
Chairman,
Christmas to the staff that I won't be seeing, and I'll see the rest of yous Wednesday night at County Board.
thank you, Dave, and to all of you. And we will now be talking to you again next Wednesday at our county board meeting, and to every one of you on the committee and of your input and your hard work. Thank you.
That's this week, Jim.
That's this Wednesday, yes.
Yeah, okay. You said next week, next Wednesday. I
Sorry.
just wanted to make sure you knew it was this week.
Thank you. This Wednesday, yes.